President Macron has been advocating for France's independence and separation from the US and the UK, just like Charles de Gaulle did in the past. This policy reflects France's desire to maintain its identity and integrity in the face of intense domestic issues. Charles de Gaulle was a statesman and military leader who played a significant role in the history of France. He believed in the idea of France for the French and was a strong advocate of France's independence and sovereignty. De Gaulle's exclamations about France's centrality in the EU and NATO were based on his belief that France should not be subservient to any other nation or alliance. Macron seems to be following in de Gaulle's footsteps, as he has repeatedly emphasized the importance of France's independence and sovereignty. Macron has called for France to be more assertive in international affairs, especially in relation to the EU and NATO. Recently, France has experienced intense domestic issues, including unemployment, widespread protests, and social unrest. Macron's emphasis on France's centrality in the EU and NATO may be a strategic move to quell dissent in France towards his administration. Welcome back to N.D.P News, the #1 stop for current international affairs. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our future content. Thanks for joining us. Now let's dive into the video. Macron's Cold War-era foreign policy, a threat to European unity. The current situation in Europe suggests that there is a divergence in perspectives that is preventing a common European strategy from emerging. This was evident during the recent trips to China by French President Emmanuel Macron and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. While von der Leyen has been vocal about defending the idea of European integration, Macron seems to be inspired by a Cold War-era approach to foreign policy, which emphasizes France's primacy in Europe, keeping the United States and Britain out of continental affairs, and collaborating with great powers such as Russia and China. This approach, which can be traced back to French President Charles de Gaulle, risks undermining efforts towards a unified European strategy by giving France veto power over any emerging consensus. At the heart of Macron's approach to Europe is the idea of maximizing France's strength, influence, and independence. This goal, according to Macron, takes priority over the idea of European strategic autonomy, which is subordinated to France's own strategic autonomy. In many ways, Macron's diplomatic outreach to leaders such as former US President Donald Trump, former Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Chinese President Xi Jinping is consistent with de Gaulle's vision of France as a major player on the world stage. Macron's energetic and persistent efforts to engage with these leaders suggest that he is keen on maintaining France's freedom of maneuver with other great powers. Nevertheless, it is worth noting that de Gaulle's vision was shaped by the need to restore France's prestige and honor after the country's surrender and collaboration during World War II. Today, France enjoys a level of self-confidence, security, wealth, and global attractiveness that was unimaginable during de Gaulle's time. Therefore, it is anachronistic for Macron to continue stressing that France has never been aligned behind or the vassals of any global power, and warning against becoming vassals. Macron's obsession with France's independence and autonomy is misplaced, as nobody questions Europe's right to be the master of its own destiny. Rather, the debate centers around which strategic choices are best for European citizens and countries. What do you think of today's topic so far? Drop a comment and let us know. Now let's get back to it. France's flawed approach to China, strengthening authoritarianism. In the previous years, Macron made a noteworthy observation on China's diplomatic skills, which he called a genius strategy for exploiting the divisions of Europe to weaken it. He also acknowledged the strategic competition between China and the United States as a fundamental aspect of international relations. He suggested that European countries should stay out of it and maintain a safe distance from it. He highlighted that China aims to establish its international order that aligns with its interests, rather than following the liberal international order that the West, including France and its partners, established since World War II. However, during his latest trip to meet with President Xi, Macron did not make any public mention of these conflicts. Unfortunately, Macron fell prey to China's strategy of dividing and conquering, as evidenced by the diplomatic protocol accorded to him, which overshadowed European Commission President von der Leyen. This move by China serves Xi's interests, since von der Leyen is known for her firm stance on China. Macron relished the attention given to him personally, but he failed to present a unified European approach towards China. Macron's actions have distanced France from the emerging European strategic consensus on China. He committed to developing a close and solid global strategic partnership with China, using the same language typically reserved for France's Western allies, such as the United States. By attempting to play both sides, he risked making France a pawn in a great power game, rather than preserving its independence and freedom of maneuver. This strategy is risky, and may ultimately prove to be detrimental to France's interests. After much anticipation and speculation, Macron has recently redefined China's role in the global community, stating that China is equally committed to working together with France in promoting security and stability throughout the world. However, this redefinition fails to acknowledge China's strategic partnership with Russia, which has no limits, and sees China propping up Russian finances through their purchases of gas and oil. Additionally, there are concerns that China may even consider providing weapons to Russia to be used in Ukraine. While China has not fully backed Russia in the conflict, they may prefer to engage in a prolonged conflict that keeps the West engaged and Moscow increasingly dependent. Nevertheless, Xi Jinping does not want to see Putin lose, and may choose to come to his rescue if Russia begins to lose significantly on the battlefield. Putin himself intervened in 2015 to protect Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad, and it is possible that China could do the same for Russia. Given the 12-year conflict in Syria, it's conceivable that the war in Ukraine may also become a long and protracted struggle. The French approach to China may be flawed, as it could potentially strengthen China's ability to shape the world in its own authoritarian interest, rather than promoting a global order that favors freedom, democracy, human rights, and inviolable borders. Even von der Leyen's recent speech on China emphasized significant concerns about the rise of an authoritarian power that intends to reshape the global order, which is the foundation of European democracies. The emerging consensus in Europe, minimizing China's influence. The crisis in Ukraine has been a topic of much concern for Europe. Macron has made numerous attempts to tackle the issue by imposing his rationality on Russian President Putin. However, despite his efforts, he has admitted that Europeans cannot resolve the crisis on their own. The truth of the matter is that Europe will only be able to address its core strategic challenges by forming a close partnership with the United States and other Western democracies. Europe, in collaboration with its Western partners, possesses more than half of the world's economic might and a predominant share of global military power. This cooperation has enabled Ukraine to sustain its fight against Russia, and it could also help to deter China from invading Taiwan. However, Macron's attempts to make Europe a lion have only served to alienate much of Europe. If France wants to achieve its objectives, it needs to adopt a strategy that can realistically command European support. The only strategic course available to Europe, if it seeks to serve its interests in peace, prosperity, democracy, and a global order, is to defeat Russia in Ukraine, strengthen the West, and minimize China's authoritarian influence in Europe. This is, in fact, the emerging consensus in Europe outside France, and a few other holdouts such as Hungary. It is now time for Macron to pivot. Although his convictions are deeply rooted in Gaullism and other French traditions, a shift in strategy is possible as Macron reflects on the legacy he wants to bestow and the endgame he wishes to pursue in Ukraine. Reorienting his strategy along the lines supported by the rest of Europe can achieve French goals, while serving the wider interest of Europe and the West. Thanks for watching. What do you think of President Macron's latest comments? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, why not subscribe and leave a like? It helps us continue providing you with great content. This has been N.D.P News, and we'll see you in the next one.